Audi has launched the fully electric performance SQ6 e-tron, and this mid-size SUV joins its siblings in offering smaller families the opportunity to go green in style. Is it as fun as some other segment leaders, and how does it handle a real family of three? We'll answer those questions and more in this review, so stick around. The launch of the flagship SQ6 e-tron now brings the Q6 lineup to 3 before a high-performance RS model hits our shores sometime in the future. However, there is a significant price hike of almost 30 grand over the mid-spec Q6 Quattro e-tron. Is it worth it? Let's find out. With the motor outputs and performance tweaks, this model competes in the world of the Porsche Macan 4S because they are mechanically related. However, this model is slightly more expensive and lacks the torque punch the 4S has. One of the most exciting things when it comes to the Q6 range in general is the technology, and the SQ6 is no different. You get a 14.5-inch multimedia display, an 11.9-inch digital instrument cluster, and a 10.9-inch touchscreen in front of the front passenger, as well as a 3D Bang & Olufsen surround sound system, so I hope technology doesn't intimidate you. Other highlights include an augmented reality coloured head-up display, which is essentially just a 3D looking screen. You have Napa leather upholstery, heated front and rear outboard seats, as well as a heated steering wheel, and you also have a massage function on the front seats, which is delightful. Surprisingly though, there's no ventilation function available despite it being an optional extra for the lower grades, which is a little bit annoying when you're at this price point and grade level. But the full specs are in my written review at carsguide.com.au if you need more info. The SQ6 has a very distinct style compared to the other mid-sized SUVs in Audi's stables because it lacks some of the severe pleating that the cousins have. Instead, it's got more swoopy lines and quite a distinct body molding around the base of the car. The sporty S styling is seen though in the large 21-inch alloys and red calipers, but it's the light design inside and out which really makes it stand out. The cabin is sumptuously styled with Napa and suede leather upholstery. You've got all of those displays on the dashboard that makes us feel like a spaceship, and everything just feels beautifully put together. What I like though is that this curved panel is tilted towards the driver, which makes the cockpit feel still accessible and intimate despite being futuristic. It looks as expensive in here as what you would hope it would be for a car at this level. The front row has really good access, and it's a simple row to get in and out of, which is nice. The front seats are on the firmer side, but still manage to be quite comfortable on a longer journey because of those extra functions I mentioned and the fact that they tuck you in on turns and have extendable under thigh supports. In terms of storage up front, the glove box and middle console do take the brunt of the burden. However, you do get 3 cup holders, which is great if you have an emotional support bottle. And this section though is a little bit awkward to use at first because anything that you have loose bangs into cables that you've got plugged into the 2 USB-C ports and 12-volt socket. It also took me longer than I care to admit to find the wireless charging pad and where you actually slide your phone into it. I did find it eventually though. The touchscreen multimedia system has a lot of information going in on it. However, it's all pretty logically put together, so it's not too hard to get your head around it, which is good. The only bugbear I really had with it is that when you have to access an Audi function like the climate control or the massage function on the seats and you're using Apple CarPlay tends to get booted, which was annoying for me whenever I was using the Apple Maps because you actually have to go back in and select CarPlay and then go back into the app that you were in. Other than that though, it's pretty good. The wireless functionality is good on the CarPlay, and it also has wireless Android Auto for those users. This has built-in sat-nav, and I really like that the directions get pulled into the coloured head-up display, which is good. But if you do want someone to navigate for you, the front passenger screen does have access to it, which is good. The back row is an easy row to get in and out of, and it's pretty comfortable. I have enough room behind my driving position. I'm 168 centimeters tall. Somehow my 6'3" brother did manage to squeeze back in here. I wouldn't want it to be on a longer trip though. And middle seaters do have compromised legroom, and it's quite a stiff and high seat. So it's best to think of this as a 4-seater when it comes to adults. The amenity and storage is pretty good back here. You get climate control as well as a couple of map pockets, directional air vents and 2 USB-C ports, as well as the usual drink holders. I also like that the fold down armrest actually sits at a comfortable height. This row has ISOFIX child seat mounts plus 3 top tether anchor points. 2 seats are definitely going to fit best, and it might get a bit squishy for the front if you have a rearward facing child seat installed, but I had plenty of room to install my big booster seat this week. This has a really handy feature for any distracted parents out there or parents of teenage drivers. It's a Find My Car feature that's found on the connected Audi app. Really great if you've forgotten where you've parked your car or you have a wayward teen that you need to round up. This model has S-adaptive air suspension, and you can locate and use the controls from the boot, which is great when you have a heavy item that you actually want to load into this level loading space. The boot offers really good capacity at 526 litres, which was more than enough to fit all of my family's road trip luggage, and this model also gets a powered tailgate. However, you don't get a spare tyre in this, just a tyre repair kit which is located underneath the floor. The massive 64-litre frunk more than handles the 3 charging cables you get, and you can still put more stuff in. The SQ6 is fully electric and has an all-wheel drive with 2 electric motors, one located on each axle. Together they produce up to 380 kilowatts of power and 580 Newton-meters of torque, which means this can do a 0 to 100 km/h sprint in just 4.3 seconds when the launch control is activated. So yeah, this has a launch control. It's pretty cool. The SQ6 has a lithium-ion battery with a large 100 kilowatt capacity and can accept up to 270 kilowatts on DC power, which is excellent. Coupled with the 2 Type 2 charging ports, one with a CCS enhancement, you're able to charge this from 10 to 80% on an ultra-rapid fast charger in just 21 minutes. It is more common to see a 50 kilowatt fast charger though, so on that type of system, your charge times would likely sit around an hour and 20 minutes. With a claimed WLTP driving range of up to 568 kilometers and an energy consumption that sits between 17.5 and 18.6 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers, this model can more than handle the daily commute and family activities on the weekend. Based on the trip computer, my average consumption has sat around 18.1 kilowatt hour, and I'm really happy with that result because I have pushed this model hard on country roads, in the city and on the highway, so not too bad. Audi takes care of its new owners as well because they include an at-home 7 kilowatt AC charger, 3 charging cables, as well as a 1-year ChargeFox public charging subscription, which is pretty good to have. This has got a lot of legs when you have to put your foot down, but outside of the initial thrill you get from that acceleration, it sort of drives like every other Audi SUV that I've been in. And that's not a bad thing. It's really nice to drive, handles beautifully in the city and on the highway, very dynamic handling. It's just not as fun as what I was expecting it to be. And I do feel like when you're in a vehicle like this, it should feel fun most of the time. I do like the adaptive S air suspension and the fact that you can choose different driving profiles. It just personalizes it just a little bit more, and my favorite setting was the dynamic setting because the suspension and the steering just became a little bit more sports stiff, which I prefer. Even with the stiffer suspension, you're not bothered by the bumps in this, and ride comfort is pretty good. Road noise does creep in a bit, but mostly when you're going higher speeds. Around town, it's very quiet. The visibility in this is pretty good. You've got wide windows, and even though some of the pillars are also wide, none of them really got in the way from my driving position. Although looking out the back, it is hampered quite a lot, even when you don't have a passenger or car seat installed. A digital rearview mirror would have been pretty good in this model. There was something that I noted though, and it's mostly noticeable in stop-start traffic, but when you accelerate from a full stop, the car sort of lurches back a little bit, almost as if it's rolled back, or maybe the brakes have held on just a smidge too long. It's not long enough for it to be annoying, but it is long enough to be noticeable. Parking the SQ6 is really user-friendly. It's got a really good 360-degree view camera system and front and rear parking sensors. The dimensions are also really nice, so a small car park is easy as. The SQ6 is covered by a maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating from testing done in 2024 and has 9 airbags, which includes side chest airbags for the second row, but it is more common to see those just on the front, so this is really nice for a family car. There's a host of standard safety equipment that's included with this model, and some standouts include the emergency call capability and safe exit assist, which will actually delay you opening your door if it detects a car or cyclist, which is really good feature if you have a kid like mine who likes to just throw open their door. But the full safety specs are in my detailed written review at carsguide.com.au if you need more info. The SQ6 is covered by Audi's 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, and the battery is covered by an 8-year or up to 160,000 kilometre warranty. And those are pretty standard terms for the class. Audi does offer complimentary roadside assistance for 6 years though, and you also get a 6-year servicing program with this model for $2,080, which is pretty competitive. Servicing intervals are reasonable at every 2 years or 30,000 kilometres, whichever occurs first. When it comes to electric performance SUVs, the Audi SQ6 e-tron is a fine example of one and showcases a total masterclass on design and technology. It drives and handles beautifully, even if it's not as fun as what I was expecting. It's going to suit a smaller family, and with its decent driving range and charging capabilities, regional families might like it too, and that's why it gets the score that's on your screen now. But if you're after more details, check out my full review at carsguide.com.au. I'll see you next week.